All right, hey everyone. Welcome to the BrickUniverse 2016 Raleigh online community panel. We've got a cast of characters here from various online websites. We'll go down, start with Danny, and have everyone introduce who they are.
I'm Dan Pikora. I'm most well known in the online community for, well, that's actually kind of a bold statement, but I'm probably most likely to get invited to this kind of thing for a blog I started back in 2007, which was one of the first LEGO blogs to really write about models instead of just giving a picture of someone else's mock and saying this was cool.
What's it called?
It's called Fascinating LEGO Model of the Day. Usually it's LMOTD for short, for reasons we'll explain later.
I never knew that you were in charge of that. I learned something today. Hi, I'm Scott Barnick. I go by Ankir on the on Lego online Lego communities, or by my real name on some. I'm not really in charge of any communities, but I'm a guest blogger on New Elementary and a news reporter for BZPower. I also I'm probably most well known for in a lot of communities for knowing about the official LEGO color names and the color palette, and sometimes for other things.
He's got encyclopedic knowledge of like every LEGO element ever. Anyway, I'm Andrew Bulthaupt, go by Black6 online, and I run BZPower.
I'm George Barnick, his brother, if you couldn't imply that. And I am an administrator and LEGO ambassador for Brickipedia.
I'm Matthew Kay from Beyond the Brick. Beyond the Brick, we just kind of talk to people, LEGO builders, LEGO fans, about what they're doing and share that with the world.
I'm Stephen Forthofer with Brickshow TV, and we're on multiple platforms on social media, mainly YouTube, but also some others, and we just kind of give all LEGO media and news, anything related to LEGO.
Well, mine's actually transitioned a bit over the years. Once upon a time, the focus was exclusively on covering an original LEGO model every day. I had some self-imposed rules on variety, which meant that I covered like no more than 2 minifig mocks a week. And I'd also cover sculptures, mosaics, mini-land scale, microscale. More recently, I've gotten away from straight mock blogging and moved more towards spotlights on other blogs and on the conventions that I've been attending more and more frequently. And I've been trying to find a more appropriate way to be part of the community today, because I kind of took a break after some things at Brick Magic 2011 and never really came back to blogging quite as well as I was before, or quite as frequently as I was before. So I've been trying to find a more appropriate space now that so many other people have kind of copied what I was doing or done something in a similar direction to what I was doing before. And my audience was primarily the non-AFOL LEGO fans out there, families, kids, people who just don't know about the AFOL world yet.
New Elementary, which I write for, is a blog that owned by Tim Johnson, a British AFOL, and the focus of New Elementary is on reviewing new parts and reviewing new sets with an emphasis on new parts, talking about their color, their shape, what they might be used for in mocks or sets, whether they have some sort of legacy or heritage among other previous LEGO parts, that sort of thing. So far I've reviewed mainly Bionicle sets, but also some Elves sets, Ultra Agent set, a Legends of Chima set, and working on a Nexo Knights review currently.
So BZPower is mainly a LEGO Barnicle fan site, but we also cover all the rest of the construction themes. So right now that just includes the Star Wars buildable figures, but also in the past, Hero Factory, Legends of Chima, things like that. We also try to focus on a lot of the other kind of story-driven themes, since that was one of the big aspects of Barnicle that got a lot of us into the fandom. So things like Ninjago, Legends of Chima again, the new Nexo Knights, Elves, things with a nice backstory that can kind of sort as a jumping point off for like other creative works aside from just mocks. We started back in 2001, so we turned 15 in July this year. And we've kind of had some different kind of growth spurts from time to time. Obviously Barnicle ending impacted the popularity of the site a bit, but now Barnicle's back, so that's been a big boon for us. And we're mainly kind of a news site with a message board, but we have expanded over the years to various social media platforms. So we have a YouTube channel where we post video reviews, content like this panel here, and other different random Lego-related videos you can come up with. We have Facebook page, Twitter, Instagram, all sorts of things. Just trying to share the Lego community with as many people as possible. And our audience, we mainly focus on kind of the younger AFOLs, but everyone is welcome to join BZPower no matter who they are.
Brickipedia, like Wikipedia, is a wiki site specifically for Lego. It just recently had its 10th birthday or anniversary, and it started back in 2006 as just a Lego reference site, writing about minifigures and everything, but now we serve set designers, sets, themes, minifigures, general information about Lego, parts, pretty much anything that has anything to do with Lego. It doesn't even have to be specifically a Lego product, like something like, I don't know, like we've got articles about Lego conventions, like all that kind of stuff. It's one of the most, if not the most diverse reference sites for Lego products, Lego information, and it serves AFOLs, TFOLs, KFOLs, really any age that wants to learn anything about Lego. We've got a pretty diverse group of members across the country, or in the world, I guess, because there's a lot overseas as well. Yeah.
Beyond the Brick started in 2011, 2012, late 2011 as a podcast. So for a long time, we were just kind of interviewing people. It was audio only. And after a while, we thought video cameras are cool. Maybe taking them to a Lego convention and talking to people who build Lego creations with said video cameras and putting said videos online could be interesting for people. And a few people thought that was an interesting concept, and we've just been kind of doing that for the past couple of years. And we continue to put out a podcast every once in a while, but I would say our audience is mainly composed of Lego fans of all types of different ages, old, young, maybe more younger, just in general. That's kind of the typical Lego fan, I feel. But it's been a fun ride thus far. Good times.
Brick Show started in 2009, at the end of 2009. We started as a YouTube channel and website. Our website actually started a little bit before our YouTube channel. Now we are brickshow.tv. We're also on Roku, Apple TV, Fire TV. We did just launch an app about 4 or 5 months ago, and our audience is mainly, I would say 8 to 14 is our main demographic, but it's still a lot of AFOLs, follow us on different platforms, but that's pretty much where we're at currently, and looking still to expand to other platforms.
Flickr is probably the most active site, and it's definitely one of the easiest to work with as a blogger. I also find that the groups there are a great resource. There's a lot of great contests out there. One thing I've been a little frustrated with is sometimes we've actually been kind of siloing content about what we want for collaborations and group layouts and conventions inside of Flickr groups. So there's a lot to dig through that you can't always find. Rather infamously, they took away the notes feature. You can't actually write directly on a photo of a mock anymore saying that you love a particular part of that model or you want to comment on a particular part. And we have a lot of that information that's on that website somewhere, but it can be hard to get at if you don't have the right browser plugin to make that feature work again. I administer a Flickr group for models that I've blogged already. I also have another one for the Minicon collaboration, which you can see in a not particularly collaborative form at this event.
Yeah, these days I use Flickr as my primary place for posting my mocks. I also use it to promote new reviews I write for New Elementary, and also just for general LEGO discussion. Prior to discovering Flickr and getting an account there, my main place for posting photos was BrickShelf, but BrickShelf has over the years become a little bit less reliable. So I've taken to using Flickr both for the discussion aspect and for the and just as a convenient photo hosting site. I've also I think the communities on Flickr are probably stronger than on some other social media. Even though it's not a LEGO specific site, it makes it very easy for LEGO fans to find what they're looking for and to get in touch with other LEGO fans.
Yeah, like Scott said, I think BrickShelf was probably the one of the largest LEGO communities for a while. At least the most popular place for sharing photos. But once Flickr kind of started gaining popularity as a generic photo site, I think a lot of AFOLs kind of started moving towards there just because of how easy it was to upload and share photos. They had a lot, more robust features for helping other people find them, and then they had a lot more social aspects. BrickShelf didn't really have anything, and Flickr you can have groups, you can have comments on the pictures. So it's really a great platform for the LEGO community, since most of what we do is build creations and want to share them. And obviously the best way to do that is through pictures and video, which Flickr also supports. BZPower does have an official Flickr group. We run contests on there, kind of like Danny hinted at. There's a lot of contests going on. We try to do them bi-monthly so people can create just kind of a neat contraction creation and enter that into the contest, and then we have some prizes that we'll give out. I think it's definitely a great place to share LEGO photos, and as others have said, it's probably one of the more active places to do that in the LEGO online community.
I actually don't use Flickr for much LEGO related stuff, but since I'm a professional photographer outside the LEGO community, I do have a good deal of experience with it, and for sure it definitely does have a big social aspect, more so than most other places you can share photos, except I guess Facebook. But it's a really easy place to discover new photos and creations. You can discover new people, builders, and there's always contests going on that I see. It's definitely very social. I've seen people, other Brickipedia members, share their Flickr creations very often, and sometimes they're collaborated with other Flickr members. They're that they gain insight and advice and criticism and feedback from other Flickr users. It's definitely an easy platform to share and learn and grow as a LEGO builder. Really, depending whatever you upload to Flickr, you can get somebody commenting on it.
Personally, I've been an active Flickr user since about 2008. Kind of sort of missed the whole BrickShelf mock pages, era, something like that. Flickr was kind of a real stronghold for the LEGO community for me early on. I think I contributed to the Flickr community by creating groups like Steve Witt is Awesome. For those of you who don't know who Steve Witt is, Steve Witt was the former LEGO community manager for North America.
And is awesome.
And he's very, very awesome. And I created that group to share photos of him doing awesome things at LEGO conventions. And it did yield me several free dinners. So I'm very glad I created that Flickr group. Other than that, I was able to kind of discover lots of builders across the world, across the country through Flickr. However, in recent years, I think Flickr is maybe losing traction as a platform, both broadly in the whole world and in the LEGO community. Just maybe as a tangent, in recent, I guess I could say the last year or so, I've found a lot of very interesting LEGO builders sharing stuff on Instagram. So I think there's maybe something to be said for kind of a mobile platform and less formality around the whole sharing process. But I think Flickr definitely has left its mark on LEGO fans everywhere.
Indeed it has. We like to use Flickr a lot on our videos. We just recently did a video, and I would say the majority of the photos were from Flickr, 15 fantastic Lego Deadpool creations. And I think for us, being in the, using video format, we just take pictures and of people's creations, and either have a contest or just show them these are, just great ones that you can look at. And then we reference it and they can see all the other ones that the creator has made. And I think it's great for that. We like to come to these events too to film and get some of the great creations, but Flickr is just such an easy way you can literally do it from sitting in your bedroom and, share it. And it's great because you can share it to, thousands of people and they can see what you've made.
I have not done as much with the Instagram community. It kind of feels like a weird parallel universe to me. Seems like it's primarily younger builders. And the main trend I've noticed there, and I guess there's some of this on Flickr and Facebook and everywhere else too, but I feel like there's more people who are taking photos of minifigures in odd places than there are people sharing mocks in particular. But I suppose that is another way to be a fan of Lego. It's perfectly valid. It's just a parallel universe, what I pay attention to.
Like Danny, I have not really made use of Instagram, and I'm not all that well acquainted with all the details of how it works. However, I do encounter references frequently to, the Instagram community has not just a general Lego community, but there's also, Bionicle fans, have a community they sometimes call Biogram, and Ninjago fans have, what they call Ninjagram, just communities that have sprung up of like-minded fans and builders, and it's become, in those communities, it's not just used for sharing photos of creations, but also for sharing sort of almost news, similar to how a social network like Twitter or Facebook might be used to share what things of the developments in the official universes for those brands. Besides that, Instagram, I haven't had a lot of exposure to it, so I'm not really the most. I'm not the most authoritative source on that matter.
So BZPower does have an Instagram account. We're at BZPgram. We're a little too slow to adopt to get BZPower on there. So we primarily use it at events like these. So we'll take pictures of creations of the crowds, other things going on at the events to kind of try to help drive some press and publicity for them and share with the people who can't be here at the event kind of what's going on. We also use it to kind of sometimes do sneak peeks at things coming up on BZPower. So for example. Maybe it was last month we did a review of the new LEGO Ideas Maze set, and we sent out a picture on Instagram of that a little in advance to kind of build up some hype. Since it is one of the many social media platforms out there, we actually try to use it in conjunction with some of the others, using IFTTT, if this then that. We are able to share pictures we take on Instagram with Twitter and Facebook and some other platforms to help more easily spread those around. So if someone's not necessarily on Instagram, they can still access the content we share there. Kind of like what Danny said, there is a interesting community on there. I was at an event last year and someone had some pretty awesome Barnicle creations, and I wasn't familiar with who they were as a builder, so I started talking to them a little bit and asked them where they share them. Do they have a Flickr account? They're like, no, I do everything on Instagram. And we have all these other people that I talk to on a regular basis that we just share back and forth on that, which kind of blew my mind a little bit. It's definitely, I think, a generational thing where I grew up using Brickshelf and then Flickr and stuff for the LEGO community, and now there's these new platforms coming, and it really takes a conscious effort to try to get yourself out of your old mindset to make sure you're keeping up with what the current platforms are, so you can help reach the widest audience possible.
Brickipedia doesn't actually have an Instagram account. We don't use social media very much, but Twitter's our number one primarily. But I use Instagram a lot for photography, but I am well aware of there's an ever-growing community of Lego builders, especially younger ones, who somehow find me on Instagram. And sometimes I follow them back. I only follow a couple, though, of Lego-related ones, but I see quite a bit of minifigures. There's a lot of customizers on there. There's a lot of the people who just, like, I think it was Danny who said, just take pictures of the minifigures in weird places. And it's a very social platform, and it's easy to use. And the time I run into it the most in the Lego community, I think, is during like big events like Comic-Con and that stuff, where news spreads really fast, primarily through Instagram. I see it more through Instagram than I see other social media platforms being utilized to spread, like, if new pictures of a new set hit Instagram, I see it on all the sites before I see it on Facebook and whatnot. So I think it's a faster paced, more social and more intertwined community, because like with Instagram you can find anything Lego related by just searching the hashtag Lego, whereas on Facebook you'd want to join a group, or Flickr you'd have to search through different photo pools and that kind of stuff. So I think it's a lot easier to find like new Lego content through Instagram than anywhere else.
My favorite phenomenon with Instagram, or relating to Instagram and Lego, are people that post like these architecture models onto Instagram. And I think these are primarily people who've gone out and purchased the architecture studio set and have proceeded to create all kinds of different, typically white with transclear pieces intermixed, like Lego creations. But I mean, there must be several dozen of these people, and they all have relatively decent followings. 3,000, 4,000 people, but they'll post like a little rendition of, a certain brutalist or some other style architecture building, and it's just fascinating to see people kind of sort of executing what I would like to think are a somewhat high-level build with, lots of constraints imposed upon them by that architecture studio set. And I think that's fascinating just because I haven't really seen that kind of content appearing on Flickr or any other social platform, but Instagram seems to be a hot spot for this. So that's the most exciting thing about Instagram for me as a Lego fan.
Yeah, we like Instagram. It's great for posting odd minifigs or minifigs in odd places. For us, though, what I like to use it when I do a review, I just take a picture of the set and then I just reference that the video is now live on YouTube. So it kind of gets a different following to know, all right, yeah, you put a video up and now the video is live. I'd say that's what I probably use it for the most, besides just taking just goofy pictures. But I also do like taking pictures at like this event and, putting it up there, so it gives people a feel for the event when they either can't make it or don't live in the area. So I do like Instagram for that.
I'm not going to lie, I don't have that much time to watch videos. I don't tend to pay that much attention to the YouTube community. It's great for the Lego Mindstorms and Technic community because you can it's probably the best format to show off moving features and programmed features. There's also a lot of people on there who review sets and talk about things for long periods of time. I believe we'll hear about some of that later. So I don't generally find mocks on YouTube, but I will feature a YouTube video if there's a good one to be found.
I personally don't use YouTube to host my own content or in conjunction with anything I do for New Elementary. However, when it comes to BZPower, I've found myself following more and more YouTube channels, both official and unofficial, to get news and insights about new Lego content. Since I am really a big fan of the story-driven Lego themes, I find there are lots of stuff on the official Lego YouTube channel that I follow closely and report on for BZPower. I also I also watch some reviews and toy fair coverage on things like that on YouTube from channels like The Brick Show, shout out. But I find that the YouTube community is not always the form I prefer to digest mocks in. I prefer pictures and text a lot of the time. And sometimes I'll watch a YouTube video if it's attached to a text post or something, but not necessarily. I haven't felt compelled to use it for my own mocks or to seek out other people's mocks on YouTube.
So BZPower, we have a YouTube account. It's BZPTube. So we primarily focus on set reviews there. So a lot of the reviews we do on BZPower for years was mainly just kind of text and images. But we've branched out to do video reviews as well. I think it can be really useful to help show off the features of the set, make it kind of give people a sense of scale of the set better than just a still image. And there's a huge community out there of people who only watch stuff on YouTube, especially younger fans of LEGO. So it's, I think, very useful to be on there as a platform. In addition to the reviews, we have some kind of monthly shows that we do. So we have This Month in Bionicle, where we kind of at the end of every month we wrap up all of the Bionicle news and put it in one easy to find spot and share it on YouTube. We have a couple shows where we have some members who play some of the various LEGO games, and they'll record themselves playing it and then give some commentary over that. Try to keep things lighthearted and funny, but still give some information about the game, give some tips and tricks on that as well. We also have a Twitch channel where we play video games, and we'll export those videos and put them on YouTube. And then we have some other kind of one-off videos we'll do here and there. Like at times we'll do some videos at a convention, kind of showing off some of the creations and post them up there. And various other things here and there that we can find that we think would be more applicable to share in video form. It's I think one of the largest platforms out there when it comes to kind of social media, and there's a lot of people who only get their news from there. Scott mentioned he prefers text and images, so did Danny, but there's a lot of people who prefer videos. I'm not one of those people necessarily. I think there are definitely things where video is the best way to do it, but I think there's still a lot of people who feel differently. And that's, YouTube is their main way they find LEGO news and learn about stuff. So you got to kind of cater to that if you want to get to a large audience.
I actually don't use YouTube for hardly anything LEGO related, but when I do, it's often something like Danny mentioned. It's Technic or Mindstorm, something that involves motion, especially in like Beyond the Bricks Great Ball Contraption videos. That's partially because Brickipedia hosts greatballcontraption.com, which is the official Great Ball Contraption website, where GBC collaborators get together and talk, and all of them share videos of their models there, so they all use YouTube for that. YouTube, it's kind of off my radar as far as LEGO stuff goes, but there are a lot of news out there, and there's also a lot of video reviewers out there. I personally don't watch those because it's just a lot of time to dedicate to looking at one set, in my opinion. But beyond that, it's one of the older LEGO communities in social media, besides Flickr. It definitely sprouted a LEGO community before Facebook, and I think before Twitter too. I can't say for sure because I'm not big in those communities, but it's a long established community, and the big name reviewers out there, like I don't even remember who they all are, but there are some who have been there since like YouTube was starting. So it is a good platform for people who prefer videos over text and images, in my opinion.
Here at Beyond the Brick, we at Beyond the Brick use YouTube as our primary platform for execution, like the Brick Show. This is where we share our videos that we take at conventions, all that kind of stuff. We have several GBC videos on our channel, very, very popular, those GBC videos. As a platform, I think the most exciting thing about YouTube, and I guess you could even say like all social media platforms, live video. So Periscope, that's a live video application. YouTube has a lot of different live video. You can use Google Plus Hangouts to live video on YouTube. YouTube has other live video I guess, ways of getting live video onto YouTube. But for us, that's been very exciting. We've been fortunate enough to build Lego sets with the people that designed them. So they're in Denmark, and we're at home, and we're talking about the Lego set that they designed, and we're building it with them, and they're sharing, prototype elements with us as we build. And I think going forward, that's going to be really exciting to see where we can take that, where live video goes. And I think YouTube definitely understands live video, and we'll see where it goes in the future.
Yeah, YouTube is obviously where we started, and I've evolved from there. But it's it's been good to us, and we enjoy it. Not only we do reviews. News is probably our biggest thing as far as viewership goes. But again, even when we put out news, most of it comes from a site that's text and pictures first, unless Lego sends us the news directly. But it's just an easy way for us to get our information out. We do like, though, when we have a segment called Mock Stars. We try to put out as many videos as we can. We go to these events. We like filming here because even though you may get 5,000 to 10,000 people come through the door and see it, we like to be able to, someone, for instance, in the audience, Ethan, his creation, we can put on our channel and show people that aren't at the event and will never be, especially if they're not living in the U.S., will never be at this type of event, especially in certain countries. So we look at it as a way to get the creations that builders make out to the world, and using our platform to do it. And that's something that we kind of take a little bit of pride in that when we come to these events to use our audience for that benefit, besides just reviews. We're kind of almost evolving into a different mindset with our channel and doing more news and mocks and stuff like that. Just because there's so many reviewers out there now, it's almost insane. So, but yeah, YouTube's always been good for us.
This is probably a bad time to mention that I hate Facebook with a passion. I don't use Facebook personally for anything blog related or for mock sharing or finding mocks. I find Facebook is a great way to lose information because there's a lot of private groups where Lego knowledge is being typed up and stored somewhere, but it's difficult to find. You can't really do a Google search and find information about some of these obscure Lego topics that are discussed on Facebook. That said, there are some redeeming qualities, especially in terms of just being a social network that most people are on. I find it's great for coordinating things between events. I find certain people I know who aren't involved with the rest of the online community will respond on Facebook. And there are a few Lego groups on there that are good. I feel like the most popular one, probably April's of Facebook, is probably a little too broad. It feels like those of us who are experienced in the community are drowned out by people who don't know as much about Lego or about the Lego community. But the Miniland Scale Lego group, for example, is excellent there, and it's the only way that I've gotten to know master builders who worked at Legoland in England and Germany, which is a little surreal for me that it's literally a matter of knowing the right people on Facebook that you get to have all these exciting connections around the world in the Lego community that just haven't engaged with the rest of the online community for whatever reason.
Yeah, Facebook is probably the social network where I'm most active outside of stuff related to the communities I'm in. I use it for personal use and things like that a lot more than Twitter and Flickr and things like that. But I am also active in Lego, a lot of the Lego groups on Facebook, and in a lot of my friends are from the Lego community. I find Facebook makes it easy to get the word out to a lot of different segments of the community. So when I make a new elementary post or a BZPower news story that I think will interest a lot of people, I try to share it to most of the Lego-related groups I'm in, and that can include Bionicle fans, that can include adult fans of Lego, that can include younger Lego fans, that can include just pages, official Lego pages where fans go who might be intimidated by the dedicated Lego fan communities, but who are still interested in Lego on a more casual level. I think that it's nice. I actually quite like the fact that a lot of the Lego fans there are not as engaged with, they're not as, I'm not going to say not as passionate, because of course they're still passionate, but they don't want to dedicate their lives to such an extent to Lego as some of the people in the more dedicated communities. So that means that, that you get to see, I think, a better picture of what a typical Lego fan might be like, not one of us diehards, but someone who likes Lego and who loves the Lego brand, loves Lego products, but just doesn't have that same, doesn't commit to the community in the same way. You get to see a different side of the Lego fandom.
Yeah, I think that Facebook is definitely a place where a lot of people are. A lot of AFOLs I know all have Facebook profiles, so it's a good way to keep in touch with them. BZPower has a Facebook page that we use to share news and reviews that we post. We also try to interact with our followers there by posting various kind of discussion questions to help spur some conversation on there about different topics. I mentioned before that, like our Instagram pictures we usually share on there to help get those out to a different group of people. It's a kind of a different, just another way to kind of get your message out. Make sure you're interacting with all your fans in their preferred manner, right? Some people, like Danny, hate Facebook, but a lot of people will use that over YouTube or Twitter. So if you want to try to engage with the people who are interested in Bionicle, in our case, you want to try to make sure you have a presence on Facebook like that.
You're probably going to start sensing a trend with me, but like every other social media I've listed, I don't usually use Facebook for Lego stuff, but there are a couple good big groups, and I think groups are more effective than pages when it comes to Facebook for seeing things. And like that's probably because I get notifications for groups I care about, but I don't usually scroll through every page that I follow because it's just a lot to keep up with. But if somebody likes following a specific person or something, it's probably a good way to follow what they're up to. So like if I were a diehard Beyond the Brick fan, I could just go to their page and see everything they posted, whatever they're doing, and if they've got anything coming up. So it's a good way to stay connected with the Lego community or individuals or channels or any of that stuff in the Lego community. And since Facebook's so big and it's not just a Lego community, it's catered to you, so you can follow what you care about. Like if somebody just cares about customizing minifigures, I'm sure there's probably a Facebook group just for that, where they don't have to see new set news and that kind of stuff that they don't particularly care to follow. It's a much broader community and it has a lot more to offer than pretty much every other community, I think. And with the dynamic age range, like there's anyone 13 and up, and some of those people are like in their 60s and whatnot. You get all different types of people in the community, especially in those groups.
Facebook's a great way to keep in track or keep in touch with people from high school that you don't like, and it's also a great way to kind of understand broader trends in the Lego community. Once again, I think its biggest advantage is just that it's another platform. In the same way that Flickr is different, Instagram's different. Facebook's good for people posting random sales and deal stuff. I see interesting builders from Europe sharing creations. I'm in like a few Facebook groups related to Lego. So I think there's some promise there. Interesting.
When it comes to Facebook, my brother Jay is who actually does all of that for Brick Show TV. I don't do any personally or for our Brick Show business. But I know he loves it, swears by it, and likes the fact when sometimes we post videos and they get more views on Facebook than YouTube just because of the sharing. that you could do, and especially mocks. And mocks actually do really well on Facebook when we put up videos for that because of people see it and they share it a lot. So I know it's a big benefit for us, and but Jay would probably be able to give a little bit more insight than I would.
Real life.
To the real one too. Yeah, so we have a decent sized following in the online community, mainly on YouTube. The main difference I would say between that and like coming to an event like this or these kind of shows, you never, when I come to this show, I never get anyone walk up to me and say, "You suck, you're really, really awful." Whereas online, you get that a lot. Yeah, you get that a lot, and on YouTube, never gotten that in person. So obviously, I like the in person a lot better. It is totally different though, the different communities, just the engagement and stuff that you have. But I mean, it's kind of two totally different worlds too. But I enjoy both, obviously, because that's how we make part of our living. But just being at these events is just fun, and to see the creations is a blast.
I think I'm on the same page with you. It's it's wonderful to have a real life Lego community, real life people that like Lego. It's also really cool to be able to see people all over the world who also like Lego, and they're sharing their creations, whatever else they're doing. Just very exciting to kind of have the interplay between the two. I guess I count myself fortunate enough to live in a part of the world where there are Lego events. I'm not in the middle of Australia or in Antarctica. Those are probably the only places that don't have lugs that I can think of. But yeah, I think they're both kind of parallel universes. They kind of have a great interplay between the two. And I'm just going to keep rambling and hand it to George.
Well, Brickipedia is an online community, so pretty much everything we do is online. We don't, I'm one of the only people there who makes it out to conventions because our user base is very diverse. We don't have the opportunity to meet up with our members very often because everyone's all over the place. The United States is our #1 user base. Canada, United Kingdom, New Zealand, Australia, Bulgaria, all kinds of places, all over the place are our community. So for them, the online place is the only place for them to gather with fans that they know, whereas here, pretty much everybody's probably from North Carolina or bordering states. And that's the big difference in the online community is the demographic, I think. There's way more people out there. You've got kids, adults, all ages, all languages spoken, all countries originated from. And that's something we have to focus on when we write articles at Brickipedia, because we are an encyclopedia, and we've got something like 26,000 pages related to Lego that we have to keep up and maintain. And we have to make sure they're all understandable and readable by anybody who's learned English differently than other countries learn it, and all that kind of stuff. Because right now, English is our only country, or only language, whereas for other sites, some are French, some are German, and that. But since English is our only language, we actually have to spend a lot of time making everything readable, and we have a very long list of standards that articles have to go by, so that a kid who English might not be their first language, they still get the same information from the articles that one of us would get by looking at them. So that's definitely the biggest difference. Is here, everybody speaks English, everybody is from the same place probably, and we all are probably about the same age, whereas online, it could be anybody.
I think pretty much everyone here at this event probably found the Lego community from the internet, and I think online is the kind of main starting point for a lot of people to get into the community and find events like BrickUniverse or other conventions to go attend in person. And I think it's great to be able to interact with someone online and share your creations and get feedback and stuff. But then actually getting to meet them in person just kind of takes it to the next level. I mean, you can have kind of random off-topic conversations with somebody you've met online, but then when you have the kind of physical back and forth, you can really get to know them that much better. And conventions like these are a blast. And I think it's probably my favorite part of the community are these events. That's why I try to go to so many. On the flip side, as others have said, not everyone can make it to these events, or they can't make it to as many. So, I think it's great to be able to have a platform where people can still talk about Lego, share their creations, and then online communities like Beyond the Brick and Brick Show, BZPower, and others can share what takes place at these events online, so that people can kind of still get a feel for what goes on, and maybe it'll help encourage them to come to an event like this and kind of take their participation in the community in a new direction, and hopefully strengthen their level of interest in the community, and keep them coming back and keep them being a fan of Lego for a long time.
I wasn't really a part of any in-person IRL communities before I joined the online communities. I think there's definitely a big difference. The online communities, it's very easy to sort of jump in and feel, maybe not feel a total sense of belonging, but you get acquainted with your surroundings, partly because of the sense of anonymity. You could be anyone, so that enables you to sort of feel like you can talk to other people on an equal footing, versus in person, it can be a little bit intimidating. You only know when you come to one of these events, you might not have any clue who somebody is except by what they've built. Whereas online, you can connect to them, look at their mocks, listen to what they have to say, and you have a sense sort of that you know the person, and then you can sort of share what you have to offer. There's with that said, that enabling of that anonymity also can lead to some things like hate and trolling, where people feel like they know you better than they might actually. So they feel like they're in a position to to criticize you based on just few comments you've made, or based on how you interact with the rest of the community. And I feel like I've been guilty of that in some cases also, where I feel too familiar with somebody, and they might start to think that I have a grudge against them for for disagreeing with them vocally, when really I'm just responding more to their opinions than to the person. And it's hard sometimes. That can be taken personally when you don't intend it. So there's online interaction has this netiquette and stuff, has a totally its own set of rules and things. As for news and things, I think that the internet makes it easy to find news, easy to share news, easy to a lot of us found out about the Lego community and about events like this through the online sphere. That aspect of sharing and networking and things is the AFL community as we know it would not exist without the online component. However, the in-person component enriches it. It makes it people I truly feel like I know in this community, who I feel like I have a real strong connection to, are primarily people who I've had an opportunity to meet online or get some insight into their lives outside the Lego community. So the in-person interaction allows you to understand people on perhaps a deeper level, and to enrich that sense of camaraderie that you feel online.
I kind of like to imagine that the Lego community online and in person is the same. Realistically, though, both are simply too large for anyone to really get to everything. There's just too many lugs, too many events, too many different facets of the online community. I do prefer that in most online communities, it is easy to find information after it's no longer current. I mean, I know if you're sharing your mocks on Facebook or Snapchat or whatever the kids use these days now, you're less likely to be able to find it in the future, but you can still look up posts on LugNet even though BrickFest doesn't exist anymore, or whatever event happened last week isn't going on anymore. And you can use online translation services or the Internet Archive or whatever to find old things that you can't get anymore. I also like that online it's a lot easier to reference something from another community. Even if you're not part of a community, you can at least figure out where to find somebody. But in person, I kind of feel like the handful of us who do go to a bunch of events become a networking service for everyone else. Because if somebody wants to ask me a question about a particular mock that they saw in Seattle last year, I'll probably actually know what they're talking about. And sometimes that's hard for people to find otherwise. There's also the aspect of which context people are more comfortable in. You can probably tell from my speaking voice here that I'm a bit better typing long explanations than trying to say them off the top of my head. Some people it's just the opposite. So you kind of need both to really appreciate the community and get to know people as their best selves, I guess. As a blogger, the things that are new and exciting are primarily how many people are doing it now. There are a gazillion people reviewing mocks and sets, and it creates a lot of challenges to come up with something that is just different so that you're not copying what everyone else does.
Yeah, in terms of new and exciting developments, for me, I think I don't know all about it because what's new and exciting to me might be things that other people discovered years ago. However, there are new social networks springing up. Tumblr, Instagram, things like that weren't necessarily as big in the Lego community 5 years ago, and it's a struggle sometimes to adapt to that new landscape and figure out what this community is, how it's organized, and how you can really be a part of it and get connected with that network.
Yeah, I think to echo what Scott said, that different social networks are definitely kind of one of the fastest growing areas of the online community, and it can be hard to keep up with, especially since each one tends to be adopted by kind of the younger generation, and we keep getting older, so it gets harder to keep up. So you really have to keep on yourself to make sure you're finding what people are using these days and how best to reach out to them. Specifically with LEGO, though, I think one of the more recent developments is the LEGO Ambassador Network that LEGO kicked off a couple years ago. It allows all the different communities, both online and physical, to have a representation in an online forum to kind of talk with one another and kind of share information and have a platform for LEGO to reach out directly to them and help kind of support the community and engage with them. It helps make events like these happen by making the event runners able to get support from LEGO. Allows the lugs to get support in the form of bricks and sets to put on some of these awesome displays you see and build some of the amazing creations that they get to share with people. And I think has a lot of potential, and it remains to be seen how well it'll continue to grow.
Yes, and more information about the LAN or LEGO Ambassador Network can be found at lan.lego.com. That's lan.lego.com. Just echoing off them, I think social media is probably one of the biggest changes in the LEGO community, because the online LEGO community is actually older than most people would expect it to be. I can't put a number on it, but probably something like 25 years old. Like it first sprung up in the early 90s, but back then barely anyone had internet, or barely anyone liked using it, at least, having to cut off your phone and whatnot. So I think social media is probably one of the biggest changes in the past 5 years, or even more recent with Instagram and other newer social networks, where there's a younger generation springing up, more LEGO fans being able to find each other through groups, and it probably helps in-person things too, like with lugs and conventions. Social media is probably the biggest and easiest and most effective way to reach out to local LEGO fans, or just anyone who they might not even call themselves a LEGO fan. It just might be a kid who loves toys, and an event like this would probably be heaven to them. But without social media, they might not have ever found that, or the parents might not have ever found it. So it's a good way to connect with more people and bring them into the community.
I'm just kidding. I think going forward, one of the biggest problems we're going to see is the amount of content being generated, both in the world as a whole and the LEGO community. There are just more and more mock photos being shared every day. There's going to be, more LEGO conventions, more videos from LEGO conventions. So hopefully going forward, we'll see different sites in the LEGO community, and hopefully maybe a new platform, Twitter-like, Facebook-like, just some kind of platform that allows people to kind of aggregate content onto one space and sort of cull the best of the best. So that's just my take on the LEGO community online going forward.
I would say the biggest or newest change, or exciting, whatever the question was, for us personally, is getting like new apps. Getting basically the younger demographic, like they mentioned, are using different platforms, and actually just putting that into practice. Our biggest example, we have an app that's like 4 or 5 months old, and that's really doing well for us. And we were thinking it would, but as far as engagement goes, pretty much out of everyone who has downloaded our app, about 95% of them open it every day. Which, in the world of news and stuff, that's a big deal as far as engagement goes. So that's been the biggest and most exciting for us, and we're, looking to expand that with more apps. Right now we just have one for news-related posts that we put up, but we're also going to be doing that with video and maybe some other stuff too, but it is something that you just got to adapt, like they mentioned, to basically what is being used, and that's what we are trying to do. That more mobile, I think the number I gave with the app is because it's all mobile. YouTube, I think, will, same thing, it's going to be mobile, and just if you can make, whether it's a blog or whatever you use to make it mobile friendly, is probably the best bet, especially over the next 5 to 10 years. But that's what I would say the biggest change would be, that mobile is just taking over.
Abner Finley.
I think the LEGO community online is a plague, and in 5 years, it's probably going to be implanted in our brain, and we're all going to zombies.
Well, hopefully we're not zombies enough that we can't build original creations. It's interesting to see that LEGO has had a lot of growth, in the past 5 to 10 years, especially with things like the LEGO Movie, and they don't show any signs of stopping just yet. So I think almost what George is getting at is the LEGO is going to grow as a presence, and I think there's going to be even more people, whether or not they're zombies, remains to be seen. I have no idea. I was just trying to go off it, but I think LEGO as a whole is going to grow even more. So you're going to see a lot more content, and it's just going to be a lot more stuff to keep track of, and it's going to be a more of a challenge to keep up with all of the interesting things people are doing with LEGO as a building medium, and then as just a kind of creative expression in general.
I think that sort of following up on the answer for my last question where I said social media was one of the things that's changed the most recently. I think it's going to continue to change the landscape of the online LEGO community insofar as, back in the day, forums were, where people got together, things like that. Nowadays, a lot of people connect on social media, and that means that things are sort of more organized in terms of people's connections rather than specifically where they make those connections. People will come together based on their interests and it'll build on in that way. I think we've seen in some other communities other than LEGO that have sprung up, that social media has played a big part in changing, like stuff that's only emerged in the past few years. The fans of those things, like TV shows, video games, things like that, they have not been creating things like forums to the same extent as they've been creating communities on social media. So I think that it's going to be interesting to see how the forum landscape and blog landscape and things like that adapt, but also how new things spring up that are born on social media, and that's where they make their connections and where they find their audience.
5 or 10 years is kind of a long window to predict. I can't even imagine what it will be like by then. I like to think, though, that there will at some point be a backlash to the amount of social media fragmentation there's been over the recent years, and that we'll try to consolidate information we've learned as a community more. I feel like, in particular in the rare 2x4 collecting community, we found out a lot of interesting things about the history of the company in recent years, and we've been kind of scrambling to try to figure out all these things people have posted on Flickr, and how can we organize this information and keep it. So I think that will be more of a priority going forward, especially as social media continues to fragment the online community. As for the most growth going forward, I think digital building is going to keep taking off. LDD still has a community around it. Mecha Brick seems popular lately. L-Draw is, of course, the original and arguably still the best. I think digital building offers a lot of possibilities that we've barely started looking at. Probably the most logical place for there to be growth in the online community. Off the top of my head, I'm tempted to give credit to my fellow panelists. Social features on existing sites are a nice feature. BZPower functions as a social network for me. Brickipedia functions as a social network at some level for me. I don't know about the big name brands people are normally thinking of as much, but certainly within the LEGO community, we've done a good job of having social features on our own sites.
I think a social network that I use that hasn't been discussed at length is Tumblr, and that's one of the more recent ones to emerge. I find that it tends to have a younger audience than a lot of social networks, a slightly more liberal audience than a lot of social networks, and also generally sometimes more diverse audience in terms of things like race and gender. I don't know for sure. I'm not like an integral part of those communities the way I am with like some of the forums and things. So I can't speak to what it's like from the inside, but just from an outside observer perspective, trying to get into those communities, it's I feel like it's I don't know if it'll ever become instrumental to the LEGO community, but it's got its own culture that I think will continue to thrive in its own sphere.
I think one community we haven't really talked much about is Twitter. It's probably one of the ones I use most frequently. I think there's definitely a strong following there, especially in the LEGO community. The character limitation helps keep things brief and easier to follow and keep up with, but it can also be used to share what you're doing on other places, so we can share things that are going on BZPower, like a topic that has come up that's sparked a lot of interesting discussion. We can easily shoot a link out to that over Twitter. We can share links to our new videos on there, and also it's easy to engage with fans and people, using kind of @replies and stuff to help kind of engage with your audience. And it's nice and easy and quick to do it versus maybe a more long-winded approach or having to come up with like a whole video or something. So it's nice and quick and convenient.
We use Twitter at Brickipedia. It's just quick and effective, and just like my message right here. And other than that, I think Snapchat's growing because it's easy to follow builders, like just individual people, and you can follow what they're up to, what they're building, or if they're doing anything cool.
I found a great LEGO community on AmishPeopleMeet.com. It's a social network for Amish people. I just find that Lego's values kind of very closely align with that of the Amish community, and within said community, social network dating website, there just is really, it's a fantastic group of people, and I've really been able to meet lots of like-minded Lego builders. On that note, to all of you here who are awake, I thank everyone for coming. I hope this was insightful in some way, shape, or form.
Were there any other questions?